Hello and welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp. As always, I prefer to always remain Lee Camp. And at least for the moment, I may change my mind next week. You don't know. You don't know where things are going. I might hate this guy in a week or two. Anyway, welcome to the show. Another big show today. I don't know if I've ever said that before, but 2025 Project 2025. My God, it is tearing up everything that is important about this country. At least that's what MSNBC and a lot of the other channels will tell you. And I'm going to dig into it. What exactly is it? What exactly does it say? Is it as horrifying as they say it is? I'm going to get into that and why you're not really being told the truth about Project 2025, which sounds so horrifying. I'll be getting to that. Let's start off though by just mentioning these protests outside the White House, large protests in Washington D.C. yesterday, today, coming days against NATO. This is from peoplesworld.org. Protests at the White House target Biden's NATO war summit. NATO ministers are already appearing on cable TV and other outlets calling for procurement of all kinds of new weapons aimed at achieving U.S. and NATO supremacy around the world. This morning, the Prime Minister of Denmark noted that NATO has to stop talking about Russia's war in Ukraine and instead realize it has to step up its fight against what she called Russia's war on the entire world order. Yes. Stop just creating war with Russia and create war with the entire world. That's how we need to be thinking, folks. If we want peace, we need to bomb everyone. That's how you have to think if you want to change this world. Just make sure everyone dies, and then there won't be all this criticism about NATO if everyone's gone. Thank you, Alex, for getting the super chats started. Yes, I can always rely on Alex. He's always here. He's always on time. Thank you, Alex, for the donation. They continue. Peace talks of any kind are obviously not on the minds of the NATO war ministers. It is clear that NATO, led by the U.S., intends to live up to its growing reputation as the most dangerous military alliance in the world. Millions have died as a result of NATO policy since it was founded 75 years ago. Thank you, NATO, for keeping us safe from those millions of people, many of them children. I'd say the vast majority were non-combatants, non-military people that you have protected us from. Thank you, NATO. And then they also say protests have and are breaking out in the U.S. and around the world against the war summit opening today in Washington. And yet again, something else to be noted about someone says I'm looking hot, and they don't mean attractive. They mean I just look mildly sweaty. Yeah, it's roughly 145 degrees outside, and I'm in Baltimore. I'm not even in deep South here. So anyway, but another thing to point about the protests against NATO in D.C. and about the meeting of the tops of NATO in D.C. is that yet again, this is a group of losers getting together. This is a lot. There are many of these people that are still the heads of these countries, yet so they represent various countries in NATO who are they're probably gonna lose their next election. They're polling horribly. I think Macron's there. You got Trudeau, who's polling horrifically. You got Biden, who couldn't look more like a loser if he tried right now. You got just a bunch of losers getting together. Oh, just a bunch of losers deciding how to rule the world. Now, of course, many of them are not actually the people running the show. Okay, Biden's not running the show. I'm sure Trudeau is not running the show, and so there are a very powerful ruling elite, people with billions and billions and billions of dollars who could buy these puppets a million times over, who are actually running the show. And I'm sure, thank you, Kevin, for mentioning the heat wave. I'll be talking more about that a little later as well. But let's start off Well, I guess not start off since I already started off. Let's second off. Let's sometimes for those of you who've never done like a live stream for an hour or better yet, thousands of live streams, sometimes you say certain phrases just to buy your mind a second while you open some tabs and get yourself the next thing coming up. And so clearly one of the phrases that my mind came up with in order to buy myself some time was, let's start off with, but if you say it after you've already covered a topic, it makes no sense. It's, Terrence Howard level nonsense that you're spitting out. Anyway, here is MSNBC talking about Project 35. For those of you who haven't heard of Project 35, I envy you. That is the best place to live, is a place where you don't even hear about this garbage. But for most, all of you, you've probably heard about it. It's being talked about. If you're in the liberal world, it's being talked about as, oh my God, everything is going to end. If you're on the right-wing world, it is, yes, Project 2045, we're going to do it right now. And I'm going to explain why both of those are stupid. Because on this show, for those of you new to the show, we get down to core reality, all right? That's the goal, or at least something close. We don't sit here on the surface like every other goddamn media outlet. We don't sit here going, well, Biden is polling a little lower than the... And that's the end of the discussion. End of chat. End of discussion. End of live stream. Instead, we dig deeper on this show, and that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, so let me first play a clip, just 30 seconds, to show you how MSNBC talks about Project 2025, which for those of you who don't know is, I'm going to go 1 year from now, roughly 1 year.
Election, and this is not your father's Republican Party. It's now Donald Trump's party. And if he's elected, the consequences will be catastrophic. Trump acolytes have an entire plan called Project 2025 that outlines priorities for the first 180 days of a new Trump administration. And it's not hyperbole to say that Project 2025 would dismantle democracy as we know it. Critics are calling it the fascist playbook, and it should be one of the reasons, if not the reason, that you vote this November.
Okay, fascist playbook. This is the fascist playbook, and if they get into power, then we will see fascism. Well, before I even get into some of the details of Project 2025, let me first say that we already live in, I'd say, on a scale of 0 to 10, I would say an 8 of fascist world. Now, many of you who are watching in the United States of America, you may not feel that fascism as much as others. But there is a large portion of America that is either being abused by our society because they are poor, either extremely poor or even above extremely poor, but still poor. So they are abused every single day of their lives by this society. But that's not even, that's above what's the below that, which is those who are imprisoned. We have millions of people in prison. This is the largest prison state in the world, both per capita and per sheer number. We have a fascist police force, one of the largest, I can't remember, it's the largest or second maybe in the world. And that means that you have guys with guns on most street corners waiting to get you back in line if you were to dare behave in a way that doesn't fit perfectly within the rules of this fascist system. And yes, sometimes those rules could be, hey, don't steal something. A lot of times those rules could be no loitering. You can't stand here. Why are you standing in public, in a public place? Don't stand there. Don't sit on that bench for too long. Don't lay down on that bench. That bench is not for laying. You can't sleep here. You can't. So they're here to enforce millions of ridiculous rules in a fascist society. And many of you probably know that fascism, in many ways, the definition of fascism, it depends. Different people use it different ways, but has to do with the melding of corporations in the state so that you have a corporate-owned state, which is what we have. Sheldon Wolin called it inverted totalitarianism, which is ruled by the anonymous corporate state. It is a form of fascism. It may not look quite as bad as when people are being sent to the Holocaust. But if you extend the U.S. to the U.S. empire, in fact, there is a Holocaust going on right now. It's in Gaza. And the Lancet Medical Journal has said nearly 200,000 people in a tiny society the size of New Jersey with 2.3 million people before this started, or at least as of October 7th, 200,000 now have been murdered. So if you extend it out to the U.S. empire, we actually are living in a time of Holocaust, a time of genocide being perpetrated by this society. Is U.S. bombs raining down on those children and those innocent people. So I wanted to say that to say we're already in a form of fascism. It's just, it's a fascism with ice cream, okay? Which I think is very important. If you're going to have fascism, at least let us have ice cream. Because you can go, there's like a lot of flavors at the store. Nowadays, there's even some good vegan ice creams. There's some good options. Some not so good. Some you go, this isn't ice cream. I don't know what this is. But there's some good vegan option ice creams. And I know that you may think this is a tangent, but no, this is a very important part of fascism. Fascism with ice cream, far better than other kinds of fascism. Okay, so Project 2025, though. Let's get to the details. And these are the details. I didn't want to bring you the details that aren't the ones that are being spit out by your liberal media. And when I say liberal media, I don't mean all media. I mean specifically the liberal media, which is CNN, MSNBC, NPR, ABC, CBS, NBC, if I didn't say that one. And then there's the other side of media, which is Sinclair, which owns most of your newspapers. There's Fox News. There's, I think, something called News Nation, which, as far as I can tell, is just Steve Bannon jacking off on camera. There is another one, OAN, I believe, which is Candace Owens jacking off on camera. No, I don't actually know who's on a lot of these channels, but anyway. All right, so here is CBS News. What is in this fascist turn of Project 2025? What's going to happen? Well, here's what it is. Overseen by the Conservative Heritage Foundation, the multi-pronged initiative includes a detailed blueprint for the next Republican president to usher in a sweeping overhaul of the executive branch. Okay, so to begin with, you should be horrified. It means the right wing has plans. They have plans. How dare they have plans? Now, here's the thing. I don't agree with anything the right wing says. I may agree with some things Democrats say, but I don't agree with anything they do because nothing they do is what they say. So I don't agree with what the right wing wants to do, but I'm not shocked or floored or flabbergasted or frigibity-gibbered that the right wing has plans. That does not blow me away. It does not make me befilth my pantaloons. Trump and his campaign have worked, to continue from the article, to distance themselves from Project 2025, with the former president going so far as to call some of the proposals abysmal. Okay, so now you have plans put forward by the Heritage Foundation, and many of them are former Trump staffers from the last administration, but that Trump is now, at least to some degree, distancing himself from. So it is a set of plans that Trump partially is going to abide by if he becomes president, partially will not. Okay. Still pantaloons, still sparkling clean at this point. They say it's led by former Trump staffers. Much of the focus and criticism of Project 2025 involves its first pillar, the nearly 900-page. Now, that's the thing, is you should get more upset depending on how many pages there are. If this were an 800-page guide to fascism, not as upset. 850, I'm getting a little nervous. 900 pages of here's how to get to fascism. Okay, now I'm nervous. Now I'm upset. Now I'm bothered. If it's a pamphlet, here's the thing. Pamphlet, far more effective than a 900-page booklet. A few people, whether they agree or disagree with Project 2025, a few people are going to read those 900 pages. Whereas you give out a pamphlet, everybody's reading a goddamn pamphlet. So I'm more nervous by Trump's tweets than by a 900-page book. Anyway, called The Mandate for Leadership 2025, the conservative promise. The book builds on a mandate for leadership first published in 1981. Okay, so now this thing we're horrified by that has been introduced to us, that is covered every night on MSNBC, that is supposed to be this new thing that has never been done before, that is blowing us away, is just adding to something from 1981. Okay. Does it sound like MSNBC and the others might be a little exaggerated, might be a little bit of hyperbole going on here? The recommendations outlined in the sprawling plan reach every corner of the executive branch from the executive office, which is more than Biden can reach because he can't actually bend down or touch his toes. So most of the executive branch, Biden cannot reach. Of the president of the Department of Homeland Security to the little-known Export-Import Bank. The Heritage Foundation also created a mandate for leadership in 2015. Oh, so yet again, this has existed before. This one's slightly more updated. Let's all poop ourselves. I'm not saying this is fine. I'm not saying anything that the goddamn awful Heritage Foundation pumps out of their stupid face holes is useful or good or positive in any way. I'm just saying, those of you telling you, oh no, you gotta vote Biden because this book came out, is bullshit. They had one in 2015. They had one in 1981. Much of what's being said in these is a lot that's been said before. Heritage Foundation touted that 2 years into Trump's presidency, it had instituted 64% of its policy recommendations. Okay, here's a couple of other points that the mainstream media and the Biden administration don't want you to think about when you read that number, 64% of its policy initiatives. Okay, so the first one is, like I said, this has been done before. These are their policies. These are what they're trying to do. And Trump got 64% of them done last time around, almost 2/3. So then why did we never hear of it before? Why was this never this freak out before? Because now the mainstream media, much of them, not Fox News and the others, but much of them have decided that this is the way to get you to vote for Biden, is to yell Project 2025 over and over again. Because they got to find something. Biden's a goddamn, a corpse on rollerblades that they just push around and hope you don't notice. And they've got to find something to yell every day to scare you. In July 2020, the Heritage Foundation gave its updated version of the book to then White House Chief Staff Mark Meadows. So, again, 64. The other thing I wanted to say that they don't want to tell you about the 64% that Trump was able to achieve in his efforts as in his first time in office is how was he able to do that if most of the time he didn't have Congress and most of those initiatives did not go through Congress? How was he able to do that? Oh, maybe the executive branch has more power than we realize. It's funny, when Biden is in office, he can't do anything. Nothing can get through. Man, even $15 minimum wage was stopped by the fucking parliamentarian. Oh, that parliamentarian's so powerful. Oh, that parliamentarian can stop anything Biden wants to do. God, that is what he's like. Thor and Hulk combined, the parliamentarian is. Everything Biden wants to do, and even the ones that he does, he gets a little piece of it, like forgiving student loan debt. It's like Biden has forgiven 5% of 12 people's student loan debt. So when Biden or the Democrats are in office, they just can't get anything done. That's also tough. When Trump or the Republicans are in office, wow, Trump did everything. He brought us fascism. Wow. Isn't that amazing? That one side can never seem to achieve anything. The other side can do whatever the fuck they want with no congressional input. Also, much of the things that Trump did with that 64%, right? 2/3 of the policy initiatives. How many of those has Biden undone? He's undone a few of them. Yes, that's true. But has he undone all 64%? No, fucking no. He's not undone most of it. So if this is what Democrats stand for, why aren't they undoing it all? Okay, let's get into some more details in policy Project 2025. Some of the policies have been discussed by Republicans for years. Okay, so again, if this is on the Republican agenda for years, why are we flipping out now? Pantaloons cleared or pushed for by Trump himself. Less federal intervention in education and more support for school choice. By the way, there they are. Here is CBS using the propaganda term for gutting public schools and funding schools that mostly have richer children. School choice. That is a propaganda term used to make you think that it's not about better educating the rich while leaving the poor to get little to no education. Now, if you actually dig to a deeper level of reality, like I like to say, let's also at least acknowledge that our school system in the United States, and maybe a lot of other countries too, at the core, a lot of what our school system does is teach children, millions upon millions of children, first of all, whitewashed U.S. history, but outside of that, to basically be good drones, to sit still in their wooden desks that cannot feel good on their asses, to sit still in their wooden desks for 7 hours a day and listen to a teacher, some of who aren't that bright. I'm not saying that's not a knock on teachers. Some of anybody aren't that bright. Some teachers aren't that bright. But the real point is to get them in the kind of drone. They pick out the group that seems like they're going to be the managerial class. They often get special classes, advanced classes, where they're taught how to be the managerial class below. But then everybody below that, which is probably 80 to 90% of all children in these schools, are being taught how to be drones, taught how to sit there and, not have creativity while the teacher drones on about whatever the fuck. Anyway, I think we should mention that. That doesn't mean I don't want any education. It means I want better education in this country, as opposed to just here's how to be a drone. Okay, so then they continue. Work requirements for able-bodied. So how to get you more into wage slavery, which you'll notice Democrats never talk negatively about. There is not a Democrat on earth that says wage slavery is a bit insane of a system to take your best years, as they call them, your younger years, when you have energy and creativity and zest for life, because let's face it, anyone over 70 is just bereft of all. No, I'm kidding. But it is talked about in a pretty negative way, your best years. But whatever, your younger years, take those, give them all up to the corporations, let them suck your core, your soul, your labor out of you. And Democrats never talk negatively about that. Never. No Democrats are criticizing that. To get rid of childless adults on food stamps, to kick many adults, so many of the poor in the society, off of food stamps. Now, to get a little deeper reality, why are most people on food stamps? It's not because they consider it fun. It's because we have a system, and let's be honest, food stamps does not get you far, right? It gets you mostly subsistence living, because we have a system that has a certain number of people, millions of people, churned up by the system, spit out, difficulty finding jobs, difficulty being able to make much more than extreme poverty. And they need some help because this system churns them up and pukes them out. And that's what food stamps is. It's not like food stamps is them partying, okay? It's not some great rave in the Joshua tree. Food stamps. And let's remind everyone, this Project 2025 is so terrifying, right? Because it's Republicans, fascism. Republicans are doing their fascism thing, and oh God, and it's Republicans that are doing this, right? They're the ones kicking everyone off of food stamps. Here's from The Guardian. Bill Clinton area welfare reforms haunt America's poorest families. And this means they were still being haunted as of 8 years ago. Bill Clinton destroyed welfare, destroyed a way to get by for more families than more poor families than I think any Republican ever has. And so when we run around saying the Republicans are going to gut welfare, well, that was Bill Clinton. In 1996, when welfare, and by the way, that plan was also endorsed by Hillary Clinton. Thank you, Karma Fairy, for the donation. And you got an appropriate name, too, for donating to this show. I guarantee, I can promise you, solid karma coming your way. I've already made sure it's going to happen. It is happening. 1996, when welfare reforms were introduced in a coalition between President Bill Clinton and Republicans, 68% of families in the U.S. living below the poverty line received cash assistance. That has since fallen to just 23% nationally, and even lower in many southern states. In Georgia, the proportion dropped from 98% to 7%. And these are the poor. The poor now have far less assistance than they used to, thanks to Bill Clinton, also endorsed by Hillary Clinton, endorsed by many Democrats, not undone by any Democrats that came afterwards, right? So you didn't see the Democrats afterwards going, we got to undo all of Bill Clinton's changes. No, they largely haven't. And let's also remember that in certain ways, this is guaranteed basic income, universal basic income, right? But not the universal part. So this is basic income for the poor. It is a small amount of money for the poor. And every study that has been done about basic income has proven that it's awesome. It does not solve the problems of capitalism. You're still going to destroy society. You're still going to have, the environment. You're still going to have everybody, their lives defined by greed and defined by market economics. So I'm not saying it does fix the harms of capitalism, but what it does do is decrease pain and suffering, decrease the fact that children raised in poverty end up in crime, end up in prison more often, because it is tougher to make decisions when you are poor. It is tougher to succeed in school when you are extremely poor. The parents have more time to give to their kids, to look after their kids. They're not working 2 jobs. Maybe they're just working 1 job. The health level is much higher with your basic income. Anyway, you go down the list, and again and again and again and again, and there have been many, many studies of basic income. And guess what? Productivity at the goddamn corporations doesn't even go down. It doesn't even decrease. So everything positive that you see after a basic income study can also be applied to welfare, and yet it's been cut thoroughly by Democrats aligning with Republicans because they're one party. They're one party. They're one party. I don't know how many times I have to say it before it gets there. They're one party. The one negative, I do remember this from some of the UBI studies, the one negative from UBI studies that can impact society if you have UBI, if you have basic income, is that there's a percentage, like a 2% or a few percent uptick in divorces. And that sounds like a bad thing for society, right? But you know the reason why? It's because a certain percentage, a small percentage of women ultimately with basic income have enough money to leave abusive relationships. So that's the negative is, oh my God, a few women got out of abusive relationships. How horrifying for society. God, how are we going to recover from that, you folks? I don't know. All right, a few more things from the Project 2025. A secure border and increase, first of all, again, they're using the propaganda terminology because that's what CBS does, but a secure border with increased enforcement of immigration laws, mass deportations, and construction of the border wall. Huh. Does that sound like any president who's currently in office? The border wall remains, the part of it that was built remains essentially the same under Joe Biden. He hasn't undone it. He's given more money to Department of Homeland Security. He's deporting nearly as many as Donald Trump. His changes that are pro-immigrant are they're Band-Aids made to look good. One of them was that I know that just recently, just like in the past 2 months, he signed something saying that spouses of citizens, so undocumented spouses of citizens, would not be deported, or the family wouldn't be ripped apart in that way. But here's the thing. 2 things. One is that's a Band-Aid on changing policies in immigration to actually benefit life, to benefit people, to benefit equality, to benefit all of us as human beings, rather than abiding by some stupid line in the sand that some fucking moron drew 200 years ago, 700 years ago, whatever. But besides that, if Biden had the ability to make it so that families are not ripped apart by our garbage immigration policies, why not do it in year 1? Why not do it on day 1? every time I see that he's done something, that something has been done right in the lead up to the election, my first thought, if it's something positive, is why the hell, unless you're a sociopath, would you wait 3.5 years to do that? If that was at his all flick of the pen, he had that capability all the entire time, and he did it yesterday because they don't care about human beings. This is the definition of a sociopath. They don't care about human beings. He cares about, and the people around him that prop him up and push the pudding in his face, they care about the polling numbers and whether he'll get reelected, and that's why they did it. And they'll allow it to be undone tomorrow. Moving on, in recommendations for the Department of Health and Human Services, the agency calls for the FDA to reverse its 24-year-old approval of the widely used abortion pill, mifepristone. Mifepristone. You know, I've heard that pronounced correctly 1,700 times. I still can't do it. It's one of those I'm just giving up on. I'm just going to call it mifepristone. But here's the thing, though, is Trump has actually turned against making that pill illegal. He says it should be a states' rights thing, which it currently is. Also, you guys don't need to remind me that the Democrats have allowed and really facilitated the overturning of Roe v. Wade by destroying the Supreme Court. And for those of you new to my show, you go, wait, the Democrats destroyed the Supreme Court? No, Donald Trump destroyed. Well, that's if you don't understand that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had cancer 3 times while Obama was in office, and they did not pressure her heavily enough to step down, and she did not step down. That's if you don't understand that. Thank you, Kevin, for the donation. That's if you don't understand that Joe Biden oversaw the hearings of Clarence Thomas and facilitated Clarence Thomas getting into the Supreme Court. That's if you don't understand that under Obama, he had a Supreme Court pick that the Democrats did a completely abysmal job of forcing through rather than making it happen. And then when Trump had a Supreme Court pick at the end of his term with less time than even Obama had, they did force it through. The Republicans did force it through because the Democrats stepped back and just allowed it to happen. So the Democrats have facilitated this egregious Supreme Court again and again. Also, there's the fact that the Democrats and the Republicans, Democrats in the presidency have the ability to add as many more Supreme Court justices as they want. They could do it at any time. And they don't, because they want you freaking out about this shit so that you vote for Democrats and you think that this is all that matters in the world rather than getting down to core reality. All right, I'm going to wrap up in a second on Project 2025, but let me just do a little more. The agenda takes it. Oh, and obviously I should say that the other thing about, oh my God, they want to undo abortion rights in Project 2025. If this booklet, if this project hadn't come out a few weeks ago or months ago, would you have thought Republicans wanted to overturn abortion and to get rid of abortion bills even without this Project 2025? Yep. Yes, sir. It would have been exactly the same. Republicans would be trying to do that. Before they didn't need this book that Trump is not even going to read. Do you think in a million years Trump is reading 900 pages? So this was Republican plans before the book. Before the bookie came out. But MSNBC won't tell you that. Okay, here's another one. The agenda takes aim at long-standing federal agencies like the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. It's part of the Commerce Department, and the policy guide calls for it to be downsized. Okay. Oh, my goodness. This is a big one, right, folks? This is a big one. This policy by the Heritage Foundation says that Trump could decrease the size of the NOAA, which tells us about our atmosphere and our climate and the environment and stuff like that, right? Okay, here's the NOAA 2024 report on global climate change. Here they are talking about the global average climate temperature is the global surface temperature rate the warmest since global records began in 1850. And carbon dating shows that this is the hottest the Earth has been in more than 100,000 years. Okay? So that NOAA sounds pretty important, right? They're telling us how our planet is heating up, how this is an existential crisis. Wow. I am glad we have the NOAA. What have we done about it? This is existential. This is everything to humanity. This is, my God, we got to fix this now. We got to fix this yesterday. What have the Democrats done about it? Please. I'm waiting. Oh, so if you have a federal agency that makes recommendations that says, holy shit, our planet is heating up and this is existential threat, and then the people that have the ability to do something about it, the executive branch, Congress, don't do shit, then does it matter that the NOAA is this funded or that funded? It only matters if we're using their recommendations to change things. And Biden is not. Biden is not doing shit about climate crisis. He might say so every now and again. He might say a few words here and again and go, oh, climate change. This guy doesn't, like in the debate, I think he said, Trump doesn't care about climate change. Okay, well, let's look at another article. This is from Politico, which is a neoliberal outlet, largely does pro-Biden coverage for the most part. Biden administration oil drilling permits outpace Trump. Biden outpaced Trump on drilling, oil drilling. He outpaced him on oil exports. This is the Biden administration. If I were to list only 2 things in the world that would be the reasons I would vote or care about the president of the United States, I'd probably say, and it'd be tough to narrow it down to 2, but I'd probably say those 2 things. Well, if you want to get down deeper, maybe it's capitalism, but those 2 things are the genocide in Gaza and climate crisis. And I'll put climate crisis slightly above the genocide because ultimately climate crisis will kill far more people than the genocide. But both are horrific and both are red lines for me in terms of who you're voting for. Well, on those 2 things, you've got Donald Trump and the Republicans who say climate crisis isn't happening, and yet they exported and drilled for less oil than Biden. You have Biden and the Democrats who say climate crisis is a thing, and yet done essentially nothing about it. And the things they have done, like tax credits for solar panels, is so small, is so minimal, that it almost is the opposite, because it serves as a window coating. It serves as the show in front of the curtains in front of the actuality of reality, so that they can say, hey, we helped get solar panels. We gave tax credits to wind farms. But it needs to be done on such a massive scale to actually create large-scale change that it is meaningless. Meaningless while we die. It is blazing hot outside in Baltimore. Again, I'm not even in the hottest states. It is, you can't, anybody tried to walk across a grocery store parking lot recently to try and go in a grocery store? You're parked like 7 cars from the store, and you start walking, and then you realize you can't keep walking. You start crawling, and then by the end, you're just sliding on your stomach, hoping you can get to the frozen foods aisle and mash your face down in some frozen vegetable bags to just survive. That's where we're at. We all drive around in our fucking air-conditioned bubbles and act like this is survivable. I had one of the lower third tickers that I had like last week or something was that the federal government, the agency of the federal government says, maybe NOAA says that everybody should bring all the squirrels and birds inside air-conditioned houses at least for the next couple months. Just bring in all the squirrels and birds, because otherwise they're not going to survive. And here you have Biden pumping more oil and gas because, again, getting down to core reality, neither of these lunatics of this one party will ever mention the petrodollar, will ever mention that our money is founded, is kept afloat by the petrodollar. And I know the petrodollar deal was ended by Saudi Arabia, but here's the thing. Much of the petrodollar still exists. The deal was just a promise that they would use petrodollars, but 40-some% or more of oil around the world is still pumped in dollars, which means that the U.S. dollar is still kept afloat by the petrodollar. We need fossil fuels to fund in order, fossil fuels to flow in order for our currency to be worth a lot, to be endlessly useful. And that is why that at the end of the day, they will never do anything to get off petroleum. Never. Then they say in the article that Department of Homeland Security, here's something I support from the Project 2025. Department of Homeland Security, established in 2002, should be dismantled and its agencies combined with others. So for those of you who think the Department of Homeland Security is an awful thing, then you should go, well, let's get rid of it. Absolutely. It's basically, DHS is basically a war on our own people. It's let's find Americans, let's violate their rights, and let's go after them. But on top of that, for those of you who think DHS is a wonderful thing, and I love more fascism, for those of you who love DHS, you should remember that it only started in 2002. So unless you think that our country was just overrun by terrorists in the 1990s and 1980s, then you have no reason to think that the DHS is crucial. All right, in terms of Project 2025, I'm going to wrap it up there. I did have some more things highlighted. Let's see. Then they go after the DEI related diversity, equality. What the hell does DEI stand for again? Diversity and inclusion. And the E, I think, is for egrets, I think, isn't it? It's diversity, egrets, the birds, and inclusion. Diversity, equality, and inclusion, I think. But anyway, so Republicans, right-wingers hate that, right? Because it's basically what leads to things like affirmative action or, hiring someone who is black rather than hiring someone who's white if they have the same resume. Because you want more diversity in your world, in your government, in your someone's telling me equity. Okay, so equality, same idea. Anyway, so Republicans say they hate it. Democrats say they like it for the most part. But yet again, this is window dressing. It does not address DEI, does not address systemic racism at the core of the American system. And you may go, well, it's not fair that someone gets hired because if you have the same resume, that they hire a black person because they have no black people in the office and they have an office with 75 white people and they say, hey, let's hire a black person. So they hire a black person instead of a white person, even though the same resume, same thing. So they both gave a great interview and they're the same. Two things. One is, how do you think America worked for the past several hundred years? It was the most reverse DEI you could imagine. It was white guys doing everything at the top of these systems. So the idea of the pendulum swinging the other way a bit might be, a little more towards equality. But let's go past that, because I know that argument doesn't hold water for, people with systemic racism in their blood. So let's go to the fact that we still live in an anti-DEI society, okay? We still live in a society that far more often hires the white person instead of the black person. And I know you're thinking, that's not true. I know a lot of places that hire black people. They have tested this. There have been multiple studies that send out equal resumes, exactly the same resumes, okay? The job, whatever it is, I've sent them to different types of jobs, all different types, all different corporations, companies, same resume, exactly the same. The resume doesn't ask your race. And they send them out with the cover letter and all that shit. And the only difference between these resumes is the name. And one of them has a black sounding name and the other has a white sounding name. And they have found you are 50% more likely to get the first job interview. Not even to get the job, just to get the first goddamn interview, just to get your foot in the door, just to say, hey, I'm here. 50% more likely to get that foot in the door if you have a white sounding name. And that's currently. That's not 50 years ago. That's not before black people could vote. That's today, goddammit. So we live in a very anti-DEI world, country, and the idea that there should be some moments when companies and organizations go, hey, let's actually do the reverse of what has been done for hundreds of years. And if we have equal resumes or close, let's give the job to a black person. Let's give the job to a person that didn't have all the privileges of being white in the society. Anyway, that's obviously a deeper debate. I can get more into that at some other time. So I know I never thought I was going to use up. Thank you so much, Dan. Goddamn right. I never thought I was going to use up the whole hour on this, but I realized that each one of these tenets of Project 2025 is actually a tenet of how American system already works. And so I here I am continuing to break them all down. But another one, let's see, they say the project, again, this is from CBS News. The Project 2025 also goes after some of the innocuous parts of government, such as the dietary guidelines published by the Department of Agriculture. They don't like, so 2025 says, get rid of the dietary guidelines. Here's the thing, though. The dietary guidelines, I haven't read them recently, but they are decided by Big Ag to an immense degree. The whole food pyramid is a fucking joke, man. It is a joke. There's no science behind the food pyramid at all. There's so the fact that Big Ag, which is corporations deciding what you should put in your body to be healthy, is ridiculous. Telling you should eat meat 7 meals a day or whatever the hell. They're like, yeah, if you're going to have an apple, you should wrap some bacon around the outside of the apple just because that helps with growing bones and stuff. This is why heart disease is the number one killer of Americans. This is why diabetes is 1 out of every 10 Americans. So the idea, now I know Republicans want to get rid of dietary restrictions for some other stupid reason. Who knows what their dumb reason is. But there's dietary recommendations are garbage. Yeah, there's someone, let's say, Saz30 mentions they tell you to drink lots of milk. Yeah, if a child especially is on the cusp of not surviving, like they can't even get nutrients, like you're living out in the woods, then a cup of milk is great because it's better than water. But in today's society, there's no reason people should be chugging down cow pus. The cow mucus that gets squirted out of the little 6 dicks underneath the cow's stomach. There's no reason. It's ridiculous. And here's the thing is, a lot of the time when you're drinking, if you drink milk, if you're not drinking the really, grass-fed, organic, I met the farmer and he's a good dude kind of milk, then a healthy cow that walks around and the cow's like living it up. And if you're not drinking that kind of milk, then all the other kind of milk, which is probably 97% of all milk drunk across the country. Sorry, I know I got that conjugation wrong. Dranked. 97% of all milk drank across the country is just filled with hormones and antibiotics and all the shit they pump into the cows so that they can abuse the cows. That's what it is. So oh, really? Fill yourself with that. Could you give me, excuse me, bartender, could I have a cup of abused, tortured cow hormones in some sort of juice? Wouldn't it be great if they had to label it that way? From here on out, sorry, milk at the grocery store is going to be labeled abused, tortured cow hormone juice. So, enjoy. Okay. I gotta stop talking about this stupid thing. To sum it all up, Project 2025 is A, not new. B, what Republicans were trying to do anyway. C, a lot of it is what Democrats are trying to do also. They just deny it. A, B, C, D. What am I on? D? D. At least I haven't switched to numbers yet. D, it is, a lot of it is where we're already in a fascist society. So much of that created by Democrats or created by Democrats working together. So I've done A, B, C, D, and triangle. Triangle comes after D, doesn't it? Triangle. This is being used by liberal media to try and tell you that, oh my God, Trump is so different than the others. Now, I do want to add a little caveat in there. I'm not saying much anything in Project 2025 is good. It's all horrific. It's kumbaya horrific between the two parties, which are actually one party. Okay. Let's talk about yet something else admitted now by Israel, or at least by an IDF soldier. Before I do that, please click thumbs up, click share, all those good things. But also, you guys keep this show running. Honestly, I barely scrape by to be able to produce this show and put it out. And so, if you're able to throw 38 cents per episode my way, that'd be amazing. And after a certain percentage is cut out and everything, it's not even 38 cents. But so it's $6 a month. And you can do that by joining up at leecamp.net. Leecamp.net will forward you to my locals page. And actually, if everybody could just do this part is free. Go to leecamp.net, pull it up on a separate tab, leave it open until we're done here. Leecamp.net. When you get there, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. No, I think I might be logged in, which means I can't pull it up, but let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Okay. So here's what you'll see when you go to leecamp.net. The first thing says become a member. Now that's the 38 cents an episode. So it's $6 a month. No, I got it backwards. Sorry. That's the free version. Oh God, it's all so confusing. They need different terminology. They really do. But anyway, if you click this big red button, you'll get the free version. Even if you don't want to donate, don't want to help out, that's fine. I get it. These are tough times. But click that big red button that says become a member and join for free. Now, if you want to actually help keep the show going, scroll down from that and click become a supporter, which is right here. Supporter means you're throwing the $6 a month to help keep this going. You also get a lot of perks. If you join up at Locals, you get my ebook, Dangerous Ideas. You get the latest, my latest comedy Zoom special, Laughing All the Way to the Shitstorm. You get these live streams whenever you want them. For everybody else, they disappear after like a day. You get extra bonus segments fairly regularly. So all of that is at leecamp.net. And if you can pull that tab up right now, and after we're done here, just do at least do the free version where it says become a member. That would be amazing. And to everybody at Locals, thank you for keeping this show rolling. Okay. Oh, man. I just fucked up my background. That's no fun. Oh, give me a second. Man, I was so close. We're almost to the end of the hour, and then I got to fuck up the background. This is actually the background from the comedy special. I did a dilapidated. Oh, maybe I can't even. Maybe we'll stick with the dilapidated subway for the rest of the episode. Maybe we'll just go with this. Why not? This is the dilapidated New York subway. I lived in New York for 12 years, so it fits me. Oh, there we go. Okay. Thank you, Dan. Goddamn right. I think Dan felt the need to donate a little more after I fucked up the background. He was like, this guy needs about 12 more producers. Thank you, Dan, talking about the Void show in New York in October. But I also want to tell you about my LA show, which is this Thursday. This Thursday, I'll be performing live in Los Angeles. I don't get to perform live much, so this is your chance. If you're around, I'll be doing stand-up comedy. I'll also be taping an episode of Government Secrets. It's going to be a blast. Thank you, Josh, for the donation. It's going to be a great time. Taping Government Secrets, stand-up comedy as well. And that is July 11th. That's Thursday, this Thursday at 8 p.m. at the Crow. And yeah, you can get tickets at leecamp.com, which is my other website, and click the schedule tab. Okay, so an IDF soldier has admitted in the media that in Gaza it's permissible to shoot everyone. He's saying that there's no accountability of Israeli soldiers. Now, I know this won't shock you, but again, it's different to believe something, to say, I don't think they care who they shoot, and to have the verification. IDF soldier confesses that in Gaza it's permissible to shoot everyone, disputing the repeated claims of Israeli officials and their vehement supporters in the Biden administration who have scoffed at the idea that the IDF is targeting civilians. In-depth reporting on Monday based on the testimony of 6. Oh, sorry. It was 6 soldiers. So why does it say IDF soldier? 6 soldiers. Described how they were encouraged to fire their weapons to relieve boredom and felt authorized to open fire on Palestinians virtually at will, including civilians. 6 soldiers. I thought it was 1. This is 6 soldiers. In their latest investigative reports, Plus 972 magazine has interviewed these 6 soldiers. Here's a quote from them. They have total freedom of action. If there is even a feeling of threat, there is no need to explain. You just shoot. It is permissible to shoot at their center of body mass, not into the air. It's permissible to shoot everyone, a young girl, an old woman, anyone. Now, the reason they mention shooting into the air is because if you were trying to protect civilians, lots of times shooting in the air will, almost all the time, will get a civilian to run the opposite direction. Because there are very, very few civilians that will just walk towards a guy with a gun who's firing it into the air saying, get away from me. So if you want to clear crowds, you just fire into the air. But they're not even doing that. They're basically told, if you want to clear crowds, just kill people. Now, this is the definition of a genocide. There is no care for human beings. Completely sociopathic. And here's one more note on this. Now, I brought you these numbers, but I did not bring you the chart yesterday because I created it. Before I bring you that, let me thank Maria 89 for the donation. Thank you. And Mark Dansky for the donation over on Rumble. Mark Dansky says he'll be in the front row on the Crow Thursday. All right, Mark Dansky, you'll get to meet Dan of Goddamn Right fame. So I'm glad you guys will meet. Okay, but here is a chart of the amount of death and destruction as the Lancet Medical Journal has revealed. A chart I created. This is the deaths since October 7th, including October 7th, including the day of October 7th. According to Lancet Medical Journal, 1,200 Israelis. And again, you guys know this, but I just included that number anyway. But you guys know that of those 1,200 Israelis, many of them, possibly half, maybe even more, were killed by the IDF. But I gave benefit of the doubt. 1,200 Israelis killed, 186,000 Gazans killed. So if you look at this on a pie chart or a donut chart, and I know if you're listening to the podcast, by the way, hello to everyone listening to the podcast. Thank you for being podcast listeners. And for anyone who wants to hear the podcast while you're in the car, just look up Lee Camp on your podcast platform. You should find it. Anyway, if you put this on a pie chart, it means 99.4% of all the deaths since October 7th have been Gazans, Palestinians. 0.6% have been Israelis. And if you would imagine what that looks like, it basically is a hair's sliver is not Palestinian murder, is not murder of Palestinians, murder of Gazans. And, of course, the mainstream media is not covering this. If they were to have this, if they were to give this the amount of coverage that they give to, say, Donald Trump, that they give to, say, Project 2025, people, the genocide would be the number one care of all humans, I think, if it were covered as much in the mainstream media. Instead, what you get is it's covered occasionally, and it's a lot of equivocating. Even if you're lucky and they show the point of view of a Gazan, they also make sure to show the point of view of an Israeli who says, I'm just very scared, because it's very scary to have a genocide nearby. I mean, it's ridiculous to act like this is a equal debate, equal sides. Well, we'll give time to the scared Israelis and time to the scared Palestinians. No. That's like saying we'll give time to the Jews in the Holocaust and we'll give time to the scared Germans in German society. And I shouldn't even phrase it that way, because obviously the Jews, many of them were Germans. But by the way, Rachel Maddow once did that, where she tried to claim that it was something like Syria, like Assad is worse than Hitler, because at least Hitler didn't gas his own people, which is Rachel Maddow saying that the Jews that were exterminated, the German Jews, were not Germans. So basically, Rachel Maddow was taking up Hitler's logic on that, which, that's not the first time she's sided with Nazis, such as the Azov Battalion. Okay, let me bring you at least one more story. Niger, or I guess they want it pronounced Niger now, I believe. They officially have kicked out the U.S. troops. This is the U.S. troops filmed leaving Airbase 101 after the revolutionary Niger government demanded American troops leave the country after successfully kicking out the French troops. The presence of French and U.S. militaries is deeply unpopular in Niger, where those countries facilitate intense resource extraction. 80% of Niger's citizens have no access to electricity, and 80% live on less than $2 a day. And I have covered this story before, but that's because there were different steps to this story. The first was the revolution or the coup, or whatever you want to call it, that happened in Niger, the kicking out the French and Western puppet. The next step was the French troops being kicked out of the country by the new Niger government. The next step was the Niger government telling the U.S. they need to leave. And only the other day did the U.S. actually leave. And this is video of them actually leaving. And this is one of several countries that have been kicking out their Western powers, Western rulers, the Western puppeteers that have ruined the lives of so many people in this country. And as that report says, many in Niger live on less than $2 a day, because that is how colonialism works. That is how this system works, is stealing and extracting the wealth of a nation, which we know has been done to Africa for thousands of years, or I guess minimum hundreds of years. But this is for the American government and the American military that say, oh, we're just there to protect them and help them. Well, then how do you end up with America being the richest country on earth, and Niger people are 80% living on less than $2 a day? Obviously, the American presence, the Western presence in Niger, has not helped the people. It has helped extract the resources of that country. And, this is because so many countries are able to stand up, have the ability and the strength now to stand up against the U.S. empire that is doing that extracting. And, the obviously it's France as well, but France in many ways is part of the U.S. empire nowadays. I mean, we have put Europe into a vassal state situation. All right. Let me just give you a little bit. These are the heroes of the day. Let me give you a little bit of the heroes of the day. First, but before I show that video, let's just remind everyone, as we talked about earlier, this is a historic long U.S. heat wave. Has continued. Many Western records have been broken. Continues for days to come. This is only at 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in global warming. 2 degrees Celsius by 2050 is going to feel unimaginable. They have a chart here showing all the crazy records that are being set, the crazy heat wave. This is the early part of the summer. This is not even the deepest part of the summer. And it's horrifying. And yet we're pumping more fossil fuels than ever before. But here are the heroes of the day. I've got 2 heroes videos. This is protesters that actually succeeded. They've blocked Citibank before because Citibank funds climate crisis. Citibank funds the pipelines. They fund the corporations that are creating climate crisis. 70% of all emissions are caused by 100 companies, corporations around the world, and many of them are Citibank is their bank. So they've tried to block Citibank before. However, they didn't have enough people to block all of the doors. So you would just have, it didn't cause that much trouble to the workers of Citibank. However, this latest one, they now succeeded in blocking all the doors. So what we're seeing here is like over 1,000 Citibank employees stopped from getting into the Citibank. I think this is New York City. And this actually slows down Citibank's functioning. It gets in the way of business. This is the only type of protest that generally creates some kind of change, is the protest that interrupts business as usual. And hell, if Citibank was unable to facilitate the money for one pipeline during these hours that these doors were blocked, then that's great. If they delayed a pipeline by a day, just a day, that's awesome. If they got a few of these employees to quit working for Citibank, that's amazing. So you got to take the small wins when you can get them. And of course, this also, seeing things like this also encourages others to get involved. So that was, I believe that was Climate Defiance. This is Extinction Rebellion. They ran on to the golf course during the Travelers Championship. And they had the slogan on their shirts, "No golf on a dead planet." And I think they're right. I think there will be no golf on a dead planet. I think once the planet is dead, we might stop playing golf. And I know with those who criticize this, Fox News probably played this clip to say, look at these morons. Golf is not what's heating up the planet. These idiots. Yeah, no, it's the distraction for all of us while the planet heats up. And here's the thing. I don't watch golf, but I do watch an occasional sport. I've been known to see a sport. You know, what's the one with the thing with the ball? I watched the thing with the ball thing where the guy runs in the ball. I've seen that one. No, I'm kidding. I watch some sport. Occasionally, I've seen a football game or two. I occasionally watch some tennis. And they've interrupted those events too. And I encourage it. Absolutely. Even if it's a goddamn match I'm into. Even if I'm like excited and I'm like, oh my God, what is going to happen next in this match, in this game, in this wiggly? What is going to happen next? If they run out there and block it and stop the game and cause millions of people around the world to consider the fact that we are destroying our ability to survive on this planet going forward, I celebrate. I'm like, awesome. Good for them. Do it. You can have both. Going and interrupting these sports or interrupting something else that will get mass media attention. Well, our mainstream media, well, these corporations, well, these corporate fucking tools do nothing. Don't talk about it. Cover their heads in sand, burning hot sand, and say the world is not heating up and say, we don't have much time. They don't talk about it at all. These corporate cowards, these backboneless sacks of shit. I don't care well, let me finish the statement I was just saying before I get to that. If this causes this to actually get some coverage, while those corporate tools don't, then good. Anything to get some coverage out there, to get people talking about it, to get them angry. Absolutely. And if you got to interrupt the sport, then interrupt the goddamn sport. Okay? And everybody should be celebrating this as working towards the right aims, even if you love golf and you were so traumatized when it got interrupted. Oh my God, there was a half an hour there where they couldn't hit the little white ball. Oh dear God. What are we going to do if that little white ball isn't hit soon? It's just insane, the amount of anger. And like I said, I bet you anything, Fox News probably played that clip and said, these morons. Yeah. You know what else there's not going to be on a dead planet? You mocking people who care about our future. That's not going to exist on a dead planet either. And I'll just close with this. This is Adam McKay, my buddy Adam McKay, who I've interviewed one time. Adam McKay tweeted out, he said, my Twitter account was suspended, I think for maybe several weeks, but for suggesting members of the corporate news media do the nation a favor by taking a flying leap into a wood chipper. He said that the corporate media should jump into a wood chipper, and they suspended his Twitter account. And he says, so now that he has his account back, he wrote it on Twitter. Let me be clear. No matter how derelict a big news outlet may be, the answer is never to jump into a wood chipper. He then continues. There is nothing harder for an individual to endure than the unspoken knowledge that they are failing to do the bare minimum, which in the case of the news is to question power in their life's pursuit. The answer is not doing a swan dive into a wood chipper. If you work at a news outlet that only holds one party accountable, shows zero curiosity about the breakdown of the livable climate, and never covers the billions in dark, soft, direct money that determines 99% of the legislative outcomes, remember, there are professionals available for support, for your mental support. To paraphrase John Irving from his novel, The Hotel New Hampshire, keep passing the wood chippers. So he would like you to know that, yes, you should quit your job. Yes, you're doing a horrible job. Yes, corporate media is meaningless and goddamn sexy shit. But don't jump into a wood chipper. It's not good. Not good. I mean, I'm not sure we'd mourn much if it happened. I'm just saying, but okay, folks. I am not going to be on for the rest of the week because tomorrow I am going to Los Angeles for to perform for you guys, July 11th at the Crow. I hope you will join me. And so there will be no more live streams this week. However, I will try and get segments up for you. So still check back youtube.com/Moment of Clarity or rumble.com/Lee Camp. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you click the bell icon. I will try and create new stuff for you. It just won't be live streams. And also, if you remember Naomi Caravani from Redacted Tonight, one of the correspondents, she has a new comedy special out of her stand-up comedy. And you can get that at, let me find out what her channel name is actually, because I don't know. It is youtube.com/ncaravani is where you can get her new comedy special. So if you want to watch her comedy special, go check that out. And thank you for supporting this show. Even if you're not watching it live, thank you for clicking the thanks button and throwing a couple bucks this way. And yeah, I'm sorry, folks. I know you're going to miss Eleanor. But Eleanor will be back next week. And I will see you. Next live stream won't be until next Monday, but I will be posting clips and other things. So keep fighting. Thanks a lot. and see you soon.